Hey now, today I am going to be brewing a beer in preparation for St. Patrick's Day. Normally for me that's an Irish dry stout, but I thought this year I would go for an Irish red ale because it has been over 10 years actually since I brewed one, which has obviously been a long time. So when I set out to actually create the recipe for this, I took a look at my previous recipe and it was made shortly after I started brewing, and I was like, what the heck's going on here? There's like 9 malts going on and it was just ridiculous. So I tried to streamline it significantly and create something that is really quite a bit simpler and more basic, and I think it will result in a much nicer beer. So I've just got the brew stand fired up here. I actually just hit my strike temperature for my water, so I'm going to really quickly mill my grain. So let's come over here and do this. So for this, I'm looking for a beer that's going to be just a little bit of caramel in the door, with some toastiness coming through sort of the middle of the drinking experience, and then carrying into a light roasty finish, which should dry it out really nicely. So I'm starting off with an English pale ale malt here. This one's from OIO. Just going to fire up the malt mill. Then I've got some, this is some Cara Red, so it's essentially like a Crystal 20 malt, and that's 3.5% of the grist. I've got some Amber malt from Simpson's, and that makes up 6% of the grist, and that's for that nice toastiness. There we go. And then I've got some Roasted Barley, and that is making up 4% of the grist, so that should hopefully give it some nice color and just a little bit of that roastiness in the finish. All right, so we're just going to mill that, and then we'll be ready to mash in. Okay, so that grain all got milled really nicely. The only other thing that I've added to this strike water here is just a little bit of pH stabilizer, just because of the type of water we've got here. All right, so I'm going to pour all of this in because I'm doing this by myself. I'm quickly going to get my mash paddle in here and mix it up really well, because I want to make sure that there are no clumps of this malt that are not being penetrated by the water. So for this, of course, I just turned off the pump that was recirculating the water here, and also the burner, because I don't want to accidentally overheat this. Yeah, there we are. Okay, sweet. So I'm running a 3-to-1 ratio, so 3 liters per kilogram. In here, I find that that's works pretty well for most of the beers that I brew, and consequently I go for a 3 degrees Celsius overshoot on the strike water, and I find that I usually wind up getting pretty close to what I want. So I'm just going to quickly now get set back up here. I've got this sweet little quick disconnect and this recirc hose. Bring it down here, just above the mash. Okay, so that should work out pretty well. And I'm going to get this thing recirculating here. There's that. I'll just quickly adjust my temperature. So I am going to be mashing at 66.7 degrees Celsius. Which is 152 Fahrenheit for those Americans among us. So we'll just check this out here. Yeah, nice little recirc flow, and you can see that I wound up. Oh, that looks really weird on the video. So it's at 65.8, and it'll climb up to that 66.7 degree temp here right away. So I'm going to mash for an hour at this, and then I will begin to hit my mash out temp. So just a couple of minutes into the mash here, just taking a look at the sight glass. It's still really hazy and dark. You can see a little bit of malt particulate making it through there, but that should all get straightened out. And once we have starch conversion, that should clear up significantly. Well, we've had the 1 hour mash. It was really nice and consistent. You can see that this wort looks a whole lot different. Of course, right now it's still really dark because there's still almost 9 gallons or 33 liters of water that are going to be added to this wort in order to get the volume that I need for this 10-gallon batch. So now I'm just going to quickly mash out. Not that you can really see this all that easily. But anyway, I'm going to take this up to 75 degrees Celsius, and once it hits there, just let it keep recirculating at that for probably about 10 or 15 minutes, just to make sure the wort is all really nice and heated up. So yeah, then it'll be time to fly sparge. Let's see what's going on here. Oh yeah, beautiful. All right, so mash out temp was achieved and is holding, so I'm just beginning to fly sparge. This is where I admit to the fact that my fly sparge arm is actually broken at the moment, and I need to get a little weld fixed on that. So for now it's just streaming straight down and onto a plastic plate there, but that's okay. It works, and yeah, I'm just going to get this topped up and start running off into the boil kettle as well here. So all I had to do was switch up, this was my mash tun lid, which was on here, so I moved that over, and then I move over my HLT lid onto here, and then everything just pumps over, which is super sweet. So I'm going to start to get that going, and in a little bit here we will check on it. Well, we're about halfway through lautering off here and sparging. You can tell, I think that this is quite a bit lighter looking already, and probably a lot closer to what the actual finished color is going to be. But I guess we'll find out when she's done. And we're coming down to about the last 10 or 12 liters that need to actually pass through here on its way in there. And again, you can see that it's quite a bit lighter in color. Well, here we are. It's 49 liters of wort that is heating up, and we're just going to head towards the boil here. So it's time just to get some stuff cleaned up. The mash tun, get these hoses and pumps all circulated. I have 4 gallons of water that I've got nice and hot still sitting in the HLT. So I'm going to clean up the pumps and the hoses with those. Get this mash tun all scrubbed out, and yeah, get this boiling. Go get some hops ready. Well, we've hit a nice little boil here, so now I'm going to add the bittering hops. I've got Magnum hops that are 11.8% alpha acid, and I'm throwing in 26 grams of them, and that'll give us right around 20 IBUs to start off with. Just get those in there, and yeah, we'll let that calm down, and next hop addition is going to be at 20 minutes. Yep, beautiful little rolling boil. This is how the vigor with which I normally boil gives me a nice boil off rate and works super well on my system. So there we go. Well, with 20 minutes left in the boil, I've got 38 grams of East Kent Goldings. Gonna pop those in there. And in 10 minutes, I'll be adding my super moss for fining. So we'll come back for that. All right, I've got 200 mils of wort that I had actually pulled when I first was filling up the boil kettle here, and I've added a half teaspoon of super moss, which is like a powdered Irish moss, into there. Got it all nicely mixed in, and this is just another way to help ensure a bit of a clearer finished product. So it's with 10 minutes left in the boil. Okay, so it's time for flame out. Kill that. I've got 18 grams of EKG here, just a tiny little aroma addition. I'll get those in there, and then whirlpool. So I've had this stainless spoon in here for pretty much the whole boil, and I'm just going to give it a really good whirlpool for about 30 seconds, and that'll just help create a really nice cone at the bottom, so that when I go to run off from here, I'm not going to be picking up a whole bunch of that trube. So I'm going to get this going, and then I'm going to throw the lid on, give it about 15 minutes, during which time I'll grab the plate chiller and get that all set up, the carboys, and then we're ready to run off. Alright, so carboys are sanitized, plate chiller was sterilized in the pressure cooker, all the lines are also star sand right now. So I'm just going to start to run off. I'll let a little bit of this purge, just in case there's any water in the plate chiller from the pressure cooking process. There we go. Perfect. And get this into the first carboy here. So I'm going to fill these both up and then get them downstairs into the brewery, get them heating up with the heat wraps and stuff, and we'll check on them in a bit. Alright, so these have gotten pretty much up to temp. I'm going to be fermenting them at 66 Fahrenheit and then ramping up to about 68 within the first 4 or 5 days probably. For now they're sitting in between 64 and 65 Fahrenheit, which is great. And I've got here, I'm going to be fermenting this just with SO4 yeast. I rehydrated it, some sterilized water, and as you can see it's all nice and creamy and totally ready to go. I really like this yeast just for some of these UK style beers. It's a powerhouse, it's super quick, and it flocculates amazingly well. And because I'm on a bit of a timeline because I want this ready for St. Patty's, this is a great yeast for that particular situation. So I've just got my funnel here sanitized already. Just going to add that yeast. I'll do the same with the other one here. And before I set up this shot here, I also just aerated the wort, and all I did for that was just rouse the carboys significantly for about 1.5 minutes. And as you can see, it got all of that air in there, make it nice and bubbly. Okay, so I'm going to let these just get up to 66. I'm also going to quickly get my carboy hoods and just like I set up here, right, with hose into a blow-off bucket, and yeah, ready for fermentation. Okay, so just in another minute there, I got this all set up. So as you can see, so we got the temperature controllers going. Oh, that one's dropped a degree. That's all right. We'll get up to where it needs to be here soon enough. And blow off hoses in the bucket there. Temperature controllers all hooked up. Heat wraps on there. Fantastic. Good to go. Sleep tight. And the next morning, our beers are sitting at 66 Fahrenheit. And look at this. Nice, happy little fermentations going on here. You can see that I got it set up with thermowells for the temperature probes going through those carboy hoods, and then of course the blow-off hoses into the bucket here. So yeah, anyway, let these guys go here for a little bit, just kind of ramping up over the course of a week, a couple of degrees, just to make sure that they attenuate fully. Alrighty, well these are ready to transfer. So they hit terminal gravity a few days ago, so they wound up at 1014 as a finishing gravity, which is right at the top end for the style, which isn't a bad thing, especially considering we're actually a few points higher than the original gravity, or the high end of the original gravity for the style. So I've removed the heat wraps, and now I'm just going to pressure transfer them into kegs. You can check out my video on that whole process, just so I don't bore you in this particular video. So I'm going to transfer to that. I will gelatin fine them. Also got a video on that process too, and give them, just because I want this ready for St. Patty's Day, I'm probably only going to get it for about 5 days. Usually I prefer around 7. But because I did use the SO4 yeast, it's dropped really quite clear already, so there's not a whole ton of work for the gelatin to do. So that should be just fine, and then I'm going to go and just give a very light carbonation so that I can get these on nitrogen. Oh yeah. Alright, so 'tis the moment of truth. We are gelatin fine, we're transferred, we are lightly carbonated, and on nitrogen. So I'm not going to lie, I realize that this is a little bit darker than I'm normally going to want this beer. It was the last recipe that I used my old software on, and as you can tell, it's a little bit darker than your typical Irish red would be. I went with 4% roasted barley, but it was actually a darker roasted barley than was in my software inventory, so I think next time I would dial it back to maybe 2.5% or so. However, I think it's gonna be delicious. Let's finish topping that up there, and check that out. Beautiful white moosey head. I love the nitrogen faucet, super fun for that. The beer's just a little bit dark, but if we take it up like this, you can still see it's got those nice garnet highlights going on there. And we will just taste here. Yeah, there's a little bit of roast in there. which isn't really typical for the style. It's still delicious, and it actually helps increase drinkability with that roasted bitterness. However, I think just to make it a touch more crushable, I would dial back that roasted barley, like I said, probably 1.5% just to see how it turns out. So yeah, other than that, really happy with this beer. Super happy to have it ready just in time for St. Patrick's Day. So yeah, if you are watching this on that day, happy St. Patrick's Day, everybody. If you like the video, subscribe. Some more brewing videos and stuff coming down the pipe in addition to all kinds of other stuff. So yeah, until next time, keep it red 11.